Okay. So that's in case anybody doesn't show like Connie and she wants to see what we did. I can refer her to that.
Have you
Sorry?
recorded all of them?
No, well, there's
Have
only
you?
been the one before this, and I did not record
Yeah.
that because I was on it was on Google Meet, and
Yeah.
so I did not do it that time. But this time I just turned it on, so we're recording now.
Yeah.
And Diane,
Would
it's
you
nice
mind?
to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Would you mind recording that and sending it to us? I'm kidding.
Well, I can send you the link to it. Sure. I could
Oh,
never
you
send
can?
you
Great.
the video will probably be huge, but I can send you a link to it so you can watch it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and Diane, you're not your video is off if that's what you're looking for, but just want to let you know. And we're ready to rock and roll. So the first thing I thought I'd do, and I didn't know if I should put the chicken first or the egg first, but I wanted to do a quick review, but I also want to see if you have questions. So why don't we do questions first if you have any, and then if as I do the review, I'll try to address those if that works out. So anybody have anything that has been bothering them for the past 3 weeks? Tessa?
Yes. So it sounded like you might even be trying to answer that earlier, but so when I do import, the hard drive comes up, but I'm having trouble finding my Apple Photos folder. It's not under pictures, and I'm wondering whether I misunderstand something about what's actually on the hard drive.
Okay.
Yeah, or not. And also question number 2, let me get them both
Okay,
in.
sure.
All right, so when you import, I'm assuming you open the folder that you want to import to, like 2024, and maybe a subfolder before you even import photos. Is that right or not?
That's a good question, Tessa, and that's exactly what I'm going to cover today. And I'll
Good.
explain exactly what you do. So it'll be easier to go through that whole process, and that will answer your question. The first question, what was the first question again? Oh, on a Mac, on a Mac. That's something that I was going to bring up first in the review, is that I've said before, I don't work on a Mac. I did about 40 years ago, and believe it or not, I don't remember anything about it. So I usually cannot help you too much in addressing the specifics of how a Mac operates. So that I know that's a little bit of a problem, but I try to give you the conceptual understanding. But one of the things I really wanted to stress today was if we got a variety of experiences here. People that know computers, have been working on them a lot, know how to get in, get around, all that kind of stuff. And some people just don't get into the nitty gritty. The two things that will help you in dealing with all of your stuff in Lightroom and even on a computer, it's not just limited to Lightroom, but is an understanding of two things. Well, one thing actually, whichever one you're on. If you're on a Mac, it's the Finder. If you're on a PC, it's Windows Explorer. And those two things will show you what is on your computer. So if I'm in a Windows Explorer, which I will bring up very briefly here, I think. I guess I should start sharing. Well, let me start sharing now. We don't have to see everybody's beautiful face, but I assume that's not somebody talking to me. So I'm going to share my screen. And I think I'm going to do. Oh boy. Okay, I'll do that. So I'm assuming that you can see that, right? That is my, that's interesting. Oh, okay.
Okay.
I get little different things than you guys have got on there. So that is my, that's Windows Explorer. Okay, that is what I use. If you're on a Mac, you'll have to go to the Finder. This is showing me the layout of what I designed for my photos that I see in Lightroom. They're literally sitting on the disk. They're local. They're not on an external drive or in the cloud or anything. They're just on my local computer because I like to, it's quicker. It may not be the best thing if you've got a lot of pictures because they may not fit on there, but I have enough room and I have enough extra space so that I can do that. So I did. And you can see what it looks like. Now, when you look at that, you are going to notice that when I get back to Lightroom, it's the exact same folder structure. All of those decade folders are exactly what you see when you go into Lightroom. And when you go into Finder on a Mac, you should see the same things. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay. I'm going to go back to that in a second and show you Lightroom, and you'll realize that it's the exact same thing. And the reason is because when you start up Lightroom, part of what Lightroom does is it looks out at the locations that you've told it about, and it says what's out there, and it sees all of those pictures that are in those folders because you've added them in Lightroom. So the whole point of that was to say, this course could be 6 months long every day if we wanted to start talking about how the computer works and how does Windows Explorer work and how does the Finder work. But I highly encourage everybody to get familiar with that. I don't mean so that you can go out and get a job to do it, but just so that you understand basically what those things do. And that will help you. So Tessa, for in your situation, you go in and you try to find out where your pictures are stored. One of the things that you can do, and now I'm going to go back and share my screen again, and I'm going to show Lightroom if I can find it on here. Is that it? Yes. I think that's it. Okay, so you should see my Lightroom screen now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, good. Now look over here. All of in my Lightroom library, my folders look just like what I saw when I was in Windows Explorer, simply because I told Lightroom that's where they were, and Lightroom looks out there and there they are. If it can't find those for any reason, like if I just move them in Windows, it would be a whole bunch of question marks and it would say, hey, you told me they were here, but they're not there now. So where'd you put them? Okay, so Lightroom is just looking out there and sees where they are. So to your point, Tessa, when you go into import, you'll see that it's asking you where is, or you're trying to tell it where to put the pictures that you want to import. And if you can't find them, you have to search for them. You can probably find out doing a Google search on that. That's one of my favorite statements, right? I'm always here for support. If you have questions, I'll even try to figure out Mac questions. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you Google it? And if you did, what did you find? And if you couldn't find anything in Google, the other thing that I'm going to show you right now, I hope, is, oh, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry. It's up here on help. I'm in Lightroom. The last drop-down menu is help. You get file, edit, library, etc. Last one is help. Look what's down there. Lightroom Classic Help. If you click on that, it'll take you, I think it's called helpx.adobe.com. That'll work the same way. It'll bring you in, there's tutorials, there's everything in there. And if you're saying, I have a question on import, it'll take you to import and give you a lot of explanation. That will help you because those guys know the Mac and they know PCs. So they'll give you Mac-specific information. So Tessa, this wasn't a plan. You asked just the right questions today, so I appreciate that. So that's going to be my answer a lot on Mac questions. Click on help, ask it the question, Google it if you don't find it there, but I'm sure you'll find something. And you'll find that there are people around that know enough about a Mac that you can, without spending too much time with them, ask them, hey, do you know how to find the pictures folder or whatever in a Mac? And excuse me, I think you'll get your answer fairly quickly if you do those steps. Okay. All right. So any other questions while we're still in the question mode? Okay. So I talked mostly about folders last time, and there's a good reason for that, because that is where your pictures, all of your photos are going to be. And you can see that my folders go back basically from 1976 to the current time. So that's a lot of pictures, but most of them were originally, or most of the years at least, were originally filmed, so that doesn't count. But as you look down the right-hand column over here, you can see once digital hit, it took a few more pictures. So I have them all in here, and this is where I want to be able to find them. So the whole idea is, if you have pictures, you want to be able to get to them. And that's why setting up your folders correctly is going to help you a lot when you're doing all of the other things that we do, that we use a Lightroom for. Yes, we want to get these things organized, but once we get them organized, that should be secondary. You should just automatically come in, excuse me, import your photos. They're in there, you know where they are, and then you go to develop them. Or you create a slideshow, or you do a book out of them, or whatever you do with your photos. So this is the foundation. This is what you're going to build your house on. So it's important that we really get this squared away. So keep that in mind. Ask me questions as we go along. Once you put your photos in these folders, they pretty much stay there. I mean, you put them in there, you build your foundation out of cement, and that cement stays there, right? So your photos really want to stay there. You do not have to move them around to develop them. You don't have to move them around to put them in collections. They never move out of those folders. They're sitting on those folders that you see in Lightroom and that you would see if you went into Windows Explorer or to Finder. They stay there pretty much all the time. You don't have to move them. If you want to develop, if you want to increase the exposure, the contrast, you want to put some masking in there, you don't have to move them at all. And in fact, once you do all of that development effort, you don't have to save it. You don't have to do anything. It's just going to stay that way. All of those edits stay in the catalogs. And when you go back to that picture later, you'll see them. So I'm trying to get to I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Betsy, because I know you'll talk about that in your class, but I want to make sure that you understand you're not moving those around. You're not moving the photos. They stay in your folders, okay?
I have a question, Ted.
Sure.
Now, when we import, it says on the top of Lightroom where you want it to go.
Okay, hold that question, Saul. I know where you're going, but that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's session is the import and what all of that stuff means. So keep your question. Don't let me get away with it, but I think we'll get to it, and I don't want to get it out of the process. So as I go through the process, we'll go through it step by step, and that I should answer it. If I don't, you call me on it, okay?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that I thought I would just reinforce is, and we'll see more of this in when we do talk about imports, but this is bugging me. Does anybody know how to share your entire screen so that you don't have to, let's see, is this advanced sharing options? Because I'm not sure how to, I can share a window, but I don't know how to share a full screen.
Did you Google it?
All right, this class is over. I get some smart Alex in here. Good point. Good point. All right. I don't know offhand, and I don't want to slow us down and start running around with that. So, jeepers creepers. Let me try this though. Let me at least. If I do this, that's not going to change that. Okay, let me see if I can. Let me try it once more just to see. Share my screen. Options. That's whiteboard. Oh, well, no, that's still not going to help me. Okay, well, it's not, I guess I'm just going to have to bounce out if I want to move around. Okay, so did that work?
Well, now we have a picture of Jan and a little Word document on the Roger Williams Zoo.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can see that. Okay, that's good. All right, so, wow, that's not what I see, but I can deal with that. So what you see is, oh yeah, Jan, that's my background. Okay. So I wanted to just reiterate how I name my files, my folders, excuse me. There's really two kinds of folders in my organizational structure. One type of folder is kind of the one that you see where it says 1976 to 1979, 1980 to 1989.
Ed, we can't see your Lightroom screen. All we see
Right.
is a Word document.
Yes, and that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay, because I'm gonna explain why that's up there, okay? But I think you kind of remember that I had those folders that said, in 1980 to 89 and so on. It's just a decade label. So those types of folders that I create just they have that label on there to tell you what years or what quarters or whatever it is are in that folder. But specifically, when I go out and I do a photo shoot, because this is why we're doing this, we're going to go out and take pictures at Bell's Neck and take 100 shots of birds, and we get back and we bring them in and we want to put them in a folder. Those folders, even though they're the same folders, but those folders contain photos, and this is how I name them. So I do year dash mm dash dd, and then a brief description. So that's an example of one. 2024-02-05 Roger Williams Zoo. Well, that was when I went to the zoo in Rhode Island, and I have the date on it and a quick blurb about what it is. That's all I want in my folder name. That's what I call the folder. Okay, so far? Okay, so it clearly tells me, if I look at that folder name, what's in there. Well, on February 5th, I went to the zoo and I took pictures. That's all it is. Okay, so that's good. So now I'm going to stop that share and go back to, I feel like the guy spinning the plates on Ed Sullivan, right. So let's go back to Lightroom. Okay, so you see over here, and I'll take an example. We'll go right to 2020. That folder, 2020 to 2029, has folders in it. So, it's like it's like a file cabinet. You have a file cabinet that is, say, for electric bills or something, and you are years. These are my old bills, and I go in there, and inside that there are folders of electric bills and gas bills and things like that. So they're nested. So you go to one particular file cabinet, you go in there, and there are files, folders that contain the real things, the bills and so on. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're labeling so that we can find them quickly by saying this is the decade, and then in that I have the years, 2020, 21, 22, so on. And in 2024, we talked about this again, but I broke it down into 4 quarters just so that I wouldn't have 100 folders, you know, if I do 100 shoots a year or even more, then I would have them scrolling across the screen. And so I don't like to see that. I just divide it up into quarters. So far, so good, right?
Yes.
Just so that
Yep.
there's no difference between any of those folders. It's just that some of them are holding other folders and some of them are actually holding pictures. So the individual ones should look like that thing that I just showed you where it's a brief description and the date. Okay, that sets us up to do some things in importing. So hold that thought, and I wanted to just cover a couple other things that we talked about last time. And adding and removing folders. I think we kind of went through that very clearly, but it's very easy to remove a folder. So in fact, I'm in 2024 here, correct? I'm in Q1 right now, January, February, March. So needless to say, I have no photos in Q2. So if I had, for whatever reason, I decided I don't want that in there. I made a mistake. There's not going to be any Q2 this year. It's kind of like leap year. There's no Q2 this year. So all I'd have to do is either click on this minus button to delete it, or right click and say remove somewhere in there. Yeah, remove. And it's gone. Okay, so that's all you have to do. And if you wanted to add another folder in here, I could click up here and say add a subfolder for this, or I can right mouse and say create a folder inside 2024 images. And now I say 2024 Q2. There's two that I killed, right? Yeah, okay. And it's back again. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody understood how to add and remove folders. It's that easy. You can move these just as easily. So let's just say, cheapest, this was really, I'm making this up now, okay? Bear with me, right? So this folder called 2024 Q1, that's not Q1. I made a mistake. That's my Q5 from 2023. I can move it up there just by grabbing it, dragging it up to 2023, and dropping it. Now I have it right under 2023 images. It's that easy to move folders. You did it within Lightroom, so now Lightroom knows where it is. If I went out to Windows Explorer now, I'd see that I just moved that folder from 2024 to 2023. It's that easy. Just drag it and drop it. Now, you're not going to do that a lot, but I just wanted to show you that if you make a mistake, you haven't broken anything. Just put it in the right place, drag it and drop it in the right place, and you're fine, okay? Let's not mess up Ted's whole world here. So let's bring it back to 2024. Is that 2024? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just drag it back, put it in 2024. And now it's in there. Okay.
Hey, Ted.
Yep.
If you were to remove a folder here that had photos in it,
Yeah.
would it remove the photos from the disk, or would it, what happens?
It would
if
not,
you
unless
did it the
you,
way you described?
right. You could, I'm trying to remember it. No, it won't. It won't do it without asking you. So if you ask it to remove a folder that has some pictures in it, it will not remove them from the disk if you say, I'm trying to figure the wording on it. I think it says there's two possible selections. Delete just the folder from Lightroom, but leave the pictures on your disk, or delete the whole thing from the disk, and it asks you if you want to remove it from the disk. So,
Okay.
so if you, for some reason, did want to take the folder out of Lightroom, which, you know, you're probably not going to do that a lot, but you could do that and it would remain on your disk. You could go back in then and add that back in later. Does
Gotcha.
that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay. There are a whole bunch of things that we're all dealing with in here. Some people are new installs. Some people are have got stuff in there already in their folders or in their library. And if you like the way I'm doing this and you think that yours is different from this, but you'd like to do something like this, you can start doing that right away. You just have to start with a folder called 2024 and Q1 and start putting your photos in there. Now, all your other stuff is kind of, you'll have this hybrid looking thing. If you are comfortable with that, fine. But if you feel like, well, I'd like to start going back and creating a structure that looks just like this without all of the, because I've seen things where people have town names where they take pictures, or they have, any kind of arbitrary description in the folders, that can be kind of confusing too. So you could go back and start putting your old pictures into the years by just creating a folder for 2023 and 2022 and then sorting them out within. And as you can see, since you can just move the folders, maybe you could just do that and then rename the folder to 2023, 2022. If you want some help with that, I'll certainly do it. I don't want to try to explain every single scenario that could come up, but it wouldn't be that difficult to bring some of the pictures in. As Ro Collier will tell you, it's pretty easy, right, Ro? We started doing that for Ro recently, and it could be a lot of work if you had a gazillion pictures, but in a lot of cases, they're going to be dated correctly. So it's very doable. So don't let it frighten you to say, gee, I like that. It looks pretty good. It's nice and organized and all that. And I know I can find stuff, but I don't really want to just take on a project that's going to take me a million years. Just start now and start doing it the way you see there, and you'll be fine. And you can always go back and update the old photos and put them into the same structure, and it's not that hard. And be glad to help. So let me know. All right. I've covered a lot of the good stuff. Oh, one thing I do want to do is, I'm looking right now, you're looking at my 2024 photos, and it's in the grid view, right? And that's, I get there by hitting the letter G. If I hit the letter E, it takes the picture that I've selected and makes it full size. If I want to go back to grid, I just hit the G again. I go back. Okay. When I'm in, this is called loop view. The other is called grid view. So right now I've just got the photo there. If I hit the letter I, it cycles me through the information that this is what I decided I wanted to see. So there's three things: blank, information 1, and information 2. So you see 3 different screens there. And that all is doable by you guys under view options. I just right-clicked on the screen, okay? And I come down and I see view options, or Control J, I think it's Command J on the Mac, and it will open up this little window. Okay? And it shows you, what do you want in the information that comes up when you cycle through that with hitting the letter I? Stop me, raise your hand, yell at me if you don't see what I've done, if you don't understand how I got there. But this is just the information that you'll see in that view. And that's kind of a useful little tool, because so I could change this right now. In fact, the way to change it is very simply: you come in and you click on one of those lines. And you say, well, let's see, what did I have on there? I have file name on there right now, right? Well, I could say, I want the file base name there, which is different slightly, okay? Or I can make it whatever I want. And every time you cycle through, it will show you that. That's for grid
Hey,
view.
Ted, can you say how you got that box up there again?
Sure. So I'm just in either the grid view or the loop view, and I right click. And down the bottom of that menu is view options. On a Mac, you do the same thing. You'd right click and Command J is the easy way to do it. It's a shortcut way to do it. And this will come up. You can also go up to, oh, is it view? I'm pretty sure it's view. And you see view options too. Okay, so on the top menu, file edit view, you go into view and it's view options, same thing. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
and just play with that. Just play around with that. See what you like, see what works for you. And you do both. Again, grid view, this is loop view that I'm looking at right now. If I go to grid view, it's slightly different. And I'll just, okay. So show grid extras. That's the information you see at the top of each of the little icons. But you have to have expanded cells to do that. Okay, if you have compact cells, you can't show that extra information. So if you want that information to show, you start by saying do expanded cells under the grid view.
You go under. Let me
So you click on grid view because this is the grid with all the little pictures and you the icons. The first thing you do is say show grid extras and you click expanded cells so that it'll just be a bigger block rather than just the icon. It'll have more room. And then you can say, this is what I want to show. Again, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but go in there and play with that. Just change all that stuff into whatever you want to do. Yep.
Hey, Ted.
Yep.
Just as a point of information, on a Mac, the right click is Control click. Okay,
Oh, okay.
So you hit Control and then you click on either your trackpad or your mouse.
Yeah. Okay. Control click. I'll have to remember that. So cool. But it's kind of nice to have those. If I've got a picture up there and I'm not even sure how I got there, I can always look at the information and it'll tell me. This one says 2024-0106. That's the file name, and I'll show you how we did that. But it tells me that I took it in 2024 on January 6th. So it gives me some clue as to, oh, okay, it wasn't taken 40 years ago. It's one I took a couple of weeks ago. So then I can figure out where I am. Just little hints. These are all just little hints. These aren't, it's not amazing information. It's just little hints to say, oh yeah, that's where this is from. Okay. So enough about that because I wanted to make sure that I get to imports.
I have a question, Ted, about what the difference is between grid view and loop view.
The only difference, Saul, is that when you're in grid view, it's showing you all of the. Let me drop back just a hair here. When I click on a folder, okay, like 2024 Q1, well, that shows me all of the photos that are in that particular nested view. So let me start again. Let me start even further back. If I click on 2024 JanDip, it shows me the pictures in that folder. If I go up a level, it'll show me what's in everything underneath it. Everybody knows that, right? In other words, if I click on 2024, I'll click on everything that's in 2024 so far that I've taken, okay? And it'll be in this grid view. So all of the pictures from 2024 are going to be in there. If I want to go to a specific shoot, I have to click on just that shoot.
Right.
Okay. All right. So your question was, what is the difference between the two? This grid view is just the icons. It's just a small view so that you can scroll through and see whichever pictures are there. Loop view just means take one of the pictures, select it, you click on it, and then you hit the E for loop, and you get the picture in full size.
Okay.
Okay. And
So
then you
single
could,
picture view.
I'm sorry?
Loop is a single picture.
Yes, it is. And you can scroll through those. I think Mac is the same way. You've got left arrow and right arrow, and you can go through these one by one.
Right, right.
Right. But the grid view kind of says, okay, I know what's in here roughly, but I want to find the ones that were in the water. Okay, here's where they go in the water. Okay, so then I click on that. I say, is that the one I want? Oh, okay. So These are just quick ways to scroll through a bunch of pictures to kind of get to where you want to be. Okay. And that's most of what I'm telling you is how do you get to work on the pictures that you're in here for. I came in here today because I want to develop some of these pictures of the people that were in the water that day. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, I know where it is because it's chronological and it was the last, this quarter. So I go right there. I see that there's the dip shoot. Okay, I click on that, and now all of my photos are right in front of me in a either grid or loop view. And I find the one I want, and then I say, all right, let's go to develop or whatever I want to do. The whole idea is to get as quickly as possible to where you want to go. Let me do one last thing here, and I think I might have touched on this last time. I think I may. If I did, stop me, okay? I'm getting old. I can't remember what I did. But one of the things I really like about this structure that I have is that I keep in mind that filter folders is a great little tool. No, I don't know how many people use it, if any, but I can filter on my folders. So that means that I can click, you can see over here, I've clicked into that filter, all right? And I want to find pictures of my kids. So I type in kids, okay? Look what it just did. It took a look through all of my folders from year one and said, you know, I'm sitting here pointing. I got to stop doing that. You guys can't see me point. You can see that it shows me all of the folders that have the word kids in them. Okay. There's kids on the Cape, kids playing golf and plays in Greenbrier. Now, that is very helpful if you're looking for something in particular, as long as you name your folders with some of the keywords in your world. Okay, so my world has kids and grandkids. I keep I take a lot of pictures of the kids and the grandkids, so that's kind of big for me. So I make sure that if they're in there, I put that in that little blurb that I put in the description. So I got kids, right? And I said that's good, but what else can I do? Well, it's grandkids now. I want to find the grandkids. Well, there you go, grandkids in Harwich. So these little helpful hints that I put in the description of the folder, they have power when you want to find some stuff. It's not something you use all the time, but for kids, look at how many folders I have that have kids in them. Well, I might be able to just quickly scan that and say, I know I took a picture of my littlest granddaughter skating. Well, there's a skating competition, could be in there, could be in this one. But I say, okay, this one was 2022. That was 2022 as well. I'll just look in those two. I can also do something cool. I think I can. I click on skating competition, and then I say, okay, there's another one there. So I click on, and this is control click. So, and Tom, what would it be? Command click on the second one?
Control, no, it's control click.
On the Mac too?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
talking about
Just selecting more than one. Yeah, more than
selecting more than one.
Yeah.
Shift, would it be shift?
I think it is,
You have a control on the Mac, huh?
yeah, you do.
Okay.
So it's multiple selections.
Multiple selection, right? So you can see
Yeah.
what I did. Now I picked just those two skating ones, and I can scroll through and say, where are the ones that, oh yeah, there's that one with all the balloons. So I found it. It helps you to kind of whip through and find stuff that you might want to work on, you know, or send or do whatever you do. Okay. Again, your world is the most important thing for how you're going to implement this, the variations that you'll put on it for yourself. Does that make sense to everybody? Was that too much at once, or?
I just have a question about that. Can you add that information after you've made the folder?
Oh, absolutely. You can rename these at any time. So you could rename, if you know, in other words, if I came in here and I said, oh boy, I just looked at this folder and it's got some really great pictures of the grandkids, but I named it skating competition. I could just go in and add G Kids skating competition. Okay, so you can always go back and do that. Okay.
But Ted, it sorts only the folders with those names, right?
Yes.
In other
So,
words,
so
it
whatever
doesn't
text you
sort
put in,
it doesn't sort the photos themselves, or does it?
correct. It doesn't, it does not, because what I've done here is I have put in here under folder, in fact, let me just get rid of that. It says, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Filter folders.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's saying you just want to filter the folders. So it's going to look at whatever is in the title of the folder and filter on those.
Okay.
And any kind of text, it can be right in the middle of a word, it can be at the end of a word, doesn't matter. Just any sequence of characters it will find. Okay, so this is not something that's magic. It's just the search bar lets you put in text and it'll find it in the title of the folder. So it's nothing magic about Lightroom. It's just looking for that text and it finds it and it says, all right, here you go. These folders have that text in them. So now you've got this nicely little subset of the folders that have that text. So you can go searching through it. There's a million other ways to find stuff. So that's not the only way, but it is a nice way to do it if you think ahead. Okay. And put in, when you do a shoot, put in the things that you think, if it's birds, if you're a bird guy, put in birds and you can always pick out all of the folders that have birds, or be specific. Osprey, eagle, you can do that too if that's what you find. Okay. Okay, I do want to hit imports. And of course, I'm starting wicked late on that one, but let's talk about imports. Unless anybody has another question. Okay. Imports, you can import so many different ways. I'm going to talk basically about one way. And if you've got questions later or you have a specific way you want to do it, let me know if you have a question, or Google it first and then ask me a question. But basically, you are trying to get the pictures that are on your camera into Lightroom. And I'm going to suggest the simple way to do that, or the couple of simple ways that will get you in there, because not everybody can do them the same way. I have a Canon R6, and I could take my SD card out and plug it into my computer because it has an SD card slot. Okay, so I could take the card out, plug it in, go into Lightroom and click import, and it would find that card. It should find that card, notice that it's an SD card, and display that for you along with other things. And I'll show you, well, I hope I can show you what that looks like. I also have a cable that I can plug into my camera, and I leave it connected to my computer. So it's just a USB cord, and the other end plugs right into my camera. I don't have to take the SD card out. I don't have to do anything. I just have to plug that in and turn on my camera, and it will be available for import. Okay. So that's what I do. I plug the camera in to the cable, but you guys can plug in your SD cards and you'll go into import. Now I'm going to move this window because that's going to be in my way. Okay. So, let's start just by looking at import. All right. So we know where import is on our Lightroom screens, right? It's down the bottom left. It's at the bottom of the library, excuse me, of the folders, and it says import and export. You want import. You want to bring photos in, correct? Yeah. I click on import, and eventually, there we go. It will come into the import screen. Now, we're going to go through this process to show you exactly what you can do and what is the process that you should probably follow. let's see if there's anything in here. I don't know if there is or not. Okay, there is. There's a bunch of stuff. These will all get rejected because they're all duplicates. But I can at least show you what it looks like, because I'm not going to try to import them exactly. That's not the important part, because that's just behind the scenes stuff. But what is important is, how do you get to the point where you can say, go ahead and import? Click on import and let it rip. That's actually kind of cool. You know, I deleted a couple of pictures that were in here let's start from the beginning without my tongue tied. I've imported this whole shoot, but I was just playing around before you guys came on, and I deleted a couple of them because they were either blurry or they were dumb and they were, you know, a waste of time. So now that Lightroom has looked in there, it says, hey, every one of those ones has already been imported, except these ones, because I deleted them. So it doesn't see them in Lightroom. So it says, oh, you can import these. Did that make sense? That's what don't import suspected duplicates means. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that's good, because if you go to import something and you took these last night at the party, and you brought them in last night when you were still partying, you might forget and try to do them again. And it'll say, hey, these are already in there. And you say, oh, I knew that. I knew that. So we start by saying, where are the photos that you want to import? Now, if I had an SD card that I wanted to put into my computer, it would show up here. It shows you all the drives that you've got, including this. I know this is, for some people, this is kind of tough. What are all these drives? These are external drives that I have. I've got quite a few of them that can be backups for my pictures, my catalogs, any of my documents, anything. But I have a lot of backup space connected to the computer, and they're just external drives. So don't worry about those. Those are semi-meaningless, okay? The most important thing is to find, where are the pictures that you just plugged in. If it's an SD card, you will see that in here, and it'll say, Saul's SD card, or whatever he names it. And you would click on that, and that would show you what's on that particular drive or SD card. So you'd click on that, and you would select the pictures you want. Okay. Usually you're just going to say, take them all. If you want to check all, uncheck all. Okay, check all. And you notice that it's still just checking the ones that are not duplicated, because I still have this selected, don't import suspected duplicates. So it's not letting me select the ones that are dupes. Okay. Good so far?
Yep.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
good. All right. So you notice over here, it says from. In other words, this is the source. And we just went through that. I'm doing it from this dump from Canon R6. You would select your SD card. Then you go from there to select let's see if I can. I've got all photos, new photos, and destination folders. There we go. So I can that's just so that I can see the ones that are actually going. And because I had so many in there, they might have been interspersed throughout. So I could get rid of that view that showed me all of the duplicates. So I just see the new photos. Doesn't matter which one you use, whatever you like. That's fine by me, but this is maybe easier because you can see how many there are. There are 28 photos. Now,
Ted, I see you have copy highlighted at the top. Is that necessary?
yes, it is. And
Okay.
one of the things that I'm going to try to do here is, okay. I had to just fix my screen so that I could see that it was copy, because I wanted to explain these. Copy is DNG, copy, move, and add.
Right.
Okay. Now, this is not really that crazy. I'm not going to go into too much about copy as DNG, except to tell you that when you do that, it's the same as copy, but it changes the format of these photos that you bring in to make them a .dng file. So you know what a JPEG is, right? Those are photo that ends in JPG. Every camera has a RAW file of some sort. The Canon is RAW. Well, that's pretty good. And Nikon, I think, has, I forget what it is.
NEF, I think.
What is it? Any?
NEF, I think.
Could be,
Yeah.
could be. I forget what it is, but each manufacturer has a different thing for their RAW file. So you could change them all to DNG, which is a digital negative, and you can read up on it. Okay, I could spend all afternoon with that, and I'm not going to. So the thing you use most often is copy, because if it's on, you're taking photos that are on an SD card, you don't want to move them, because you'd be when you put that card back in the camera, they would be gone. You don't really want to do that, because that'll mess up your camera probably more than anything. If you had some photos, say some old photos that were on a just a digital drive, an external drive or something like that, and you wanted to put those in Lightroom, and you didn't want to keep them on the external drive, or you borrowed them from your brother, and you just wanted to take those photos and, well, no, that wouldn't be a good example, because then your brother would shoot you for stealing his photos. If you selected Move, what it would do is not copy them, but it would move the folder, the photos over. Okay, so you generally don't want to do that. You want to copy them. Even if you don't want those photos afterwards, it's probably a better idea to copy them, because what will happen is you'll do your import, you'll copy the photos from wherever you're taking them, is the SD card, or if you ended up doing it from an external drive, you copy them into Lightroom, and then you could go back and delete those other files if you didn't want them anymore. But if something happened, broke down in the middle, you don't want to have half of the pictures on the old and half of the pictures on the new, so just copy them. That's a safer way to go. You can move them. I mean, that's an option here. I would never do that, but you could move them, meaning I've got 10 pictures that I want to bring on, or in this case, I've got 28 photos. I would move them from that folder that I selected and bring them into Lightroom, and it would delete the ones on the external drive, so they would no longer exist out there. Okay, so that's the difference between move and copy. Add just says don't do anything, don't move them out of the folder that they're in, just leave them there, but bring them into Lightroom and create catalog entries for them. And they all do the catalog entries, but the ad would just bring them in, it wouldn't move them. So next time you start up Lightroom, wherever you got them from had better still be there. In other words, if it was an external drive and you disconnected it, it would say, you know those pictures you brought in last time, you told me to leave them where they were, but you don't seem to have that connected to your computer. So it would bark at you on next time you open up Lightroom, okay? Again, I know this is a complex kind of a thing. You have to really understand what's going on behind the scenes, but I can make it simple for you. Don't do anything, just always copy, okay? That would be your best bet. So we've told the computer now, where are the pictures? Okay, they're out in that dump from Canon R6. I want you to copy them. And finally, the last thing is, where do you want me to put them? If I'm going to copy them, where should I put them? And that's all in this whole section to the right. And this is not as bad as it looks, okay? It really isn't. So let's go through and see what it's going to ask you. Build previews. You can do standard, embedded in Sidecar, standard, one-on-one. Go with standard, okay? If you want to read up on those other things, that's fine. Sidecar creates an extra file. You don't really need to do that. So if you feel like reading up on it, check on help from in Adobe and say, what's this thing about build previews? And it'll explain those to you. I think you're better off just saying, okay, let me do standard. I build the previews. I always check that, and I check don't import suspected duplicates. Okay. This is an interesting one. You can make a second copy. So while you're doing this import, if you wanted to make a second copy out to a backup disk or something, you could do that. That's fine. I never do that. I think that's messing up your import. Don't do it there. Just do it from another, at another point. We'll talk about backup maybe if we have time at the end of the sessions. So that's all you do in the first one. Standard, build the smart previews and don't import suspected duplicates. Okay. You could add it to a collection. We're going to talk about collections. And if you decided you want to add these things to a collection, I highly recommend you don't do that. Bring them in first and decide then you add them to a collection. Rename files. This is the part that makes the whole thing work. Okay. So file renaming. Yes, you want to rename the files. So you have a whole bunch of options here. You can leave it just as file name, and it would just bring the file name in from whatever camera you're on. You just bring in the file names, and that's what you'd see when you went in and looked at the pictures. Same thing as it was on the camera. But I like to put a date in front of it. So I select date, put the date in front of it with the file name. Okay, so that's what it's going to do for the files. So it will be 2024-0106 file name, and it's what came out of the camera. You can play around with this. You can put anything you want in there. I find this is easy, okay? That's important. Rename the files with the date and file name. Leave the extensions as is. That's meaning whatever you've got in there, if it's raw, it'll leave it as raw. You can change it if you want, uppercase, lowercase, but I would just leave that as is.
Ted, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Okay, so if you put, my file names right now are simply the file names. If I were to put the date in front of it and I went into library to search for a particular file, do I have to put the date in as well?
Probably not, Betsy, because it depends on where you're looking for it. So if I'm looking for it within Lightroom, I can search for things in text, and we'll see that when I get to metadata and search. But you can just, in fact, you would only have to have a partial of the file name and you could still find it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So apply during import. You can apply some settings, some presets, some metadata. I'm not going to get too heavily into that. If you wanted to apply like a copyright, you can do that in here. And so it would put the copyright on all your photos. And you can do any presets that you have. You could apply them to those photos. If you knew there was a sky you wanted to kind of alter for all the pictures, you could do that as you brought them in. Read up on that if you want to do that. We're talking about how do I get my pictures in here right now. And so talking about how to do presets is not really what I want to do. It's just too much time. But know that it's there if you want to do that. This is where, and when I said that it was important to put the file name and the date in front of it, this is really where all of this stuff is going to come together. Because this talks about where you're going to put the folders, where you're going to put the pictures, what folders, what exactly where you're going to put them in what format. So I suggest that you click on into subfolder. You do it by date, and that's the date format. That should look familiar to you, 2024-02-03. You remember all of my folders. Have that as the first part of the folder name. It's always that date in that format. So that's starting to do all of the work for you when you import. Okay. So again, put them into subfolders, organize them by date, and use that format. And you can use any format, but that's the one that I chose. As you can see, that's the one I selected. And that's what will be in all of my folders. And then pretty much the last thing that you have to do is say, okay, well, that's great, but where exactly do you want to put them? You could try and input those into particular folders that you want, you just want to put these in the exact folder that you have for the shoot. Okay, that's fine. You could do that. But I make this sort of generic, and I say, what if I had, in fact, as you can see right here, I have 1, 2, 3 different dates on here for these pictures that I took, the 28 that I would import if I did this. So there were 3 different dates on there. I want to be able to segregate by dates because that's what I do in my folders, right? If I have a shoot where I did the skating competition, it was on January 6th. And then the next day I went to Bell's Neck and I took some pictures there. I don't want to mix those all together. I want Lightroom to put these into someplace by date with that format, and all the pictures from that date will be in those folders.
Hey, Ted,
That's-
can I
yep.
interrupt you for a minute? So back up to destination, into
Yep.
subfolder, you don't enter a name up there? You just have the organized by date?
You could put it into a subfolder and you could specify the date, but what I'm doing is I'm letting Lightroom do all of the work for me that I would have to do anyway. So I'm not going to give it the name. I'm saying organize them by date and use this date format. So you can see down below, those are the 3 folders, subfolders that it will create for me. 2024-0126, -0130, and -0203. See that, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm getting, okay, I'm a little
Okay.
confused.
So let me,
you-
I'll try to answer your question. I think I will. So let me shoot this one at you. Okay. So
Okay,
what I'm going to do is I've selected this 0 inputs. Let me talk about that in a second, but it's just a temporary folder for me. I say, put
Okay.
all of these pictures that I'm bringing in now into 0 imports. But I said to Lightroom, put it into a subfolder by date with this format. So it shows you down here, if I put it in 0 imports, it's telling me what it's going to create. And it's going to create 3 folders, okay, with 3 different dates. And of the 28 pictures, 21 will be in this date, 5 will be in this date, the 30th, 2 will be in the 26th. That's showing you exactly what Lightroom will do when it imports this. Now, okay so far? You can see where it's going to go. If I go back to my library, I can show you that's where it's going to go. The 0 imports. Why is 0 imports important? It's not. It's just a holding place for these 3 submenus, these 3 subfolders that are the pictures that I'm importing. When I get all done and I click import and I go back to library, I'll look at 0 imports and there'll be 3 new folders in there, and they will have the 28 pictures you see up in here under the new photos, and they will have been imported, built the standard icons, and it took care of the dupes. Okay, so far? I know that's confusing, but let me throw one last thing at you, and then you ask a question, Linda, okay? When I go back into library, I'm going to click on this folder 2024-0126, and I think it's pictures of Sam. Guessing. I'm going to rename this folder, and I'm going to leave that date on there because Lightroom just did all that work for me. They told me when I took the pictures, and all I'm going to do is go to the end of that date and type in Sam pictures on the back deck. Okay. I'll do the same thing on 130 for whatever it is. The dip, or 30th will be the zoo. Whatever it was, I'll put that little notation in there. So my suggestion is to create for yourself a temporary folder that starts up at the top of Lightroom Photos that you import all of your stuff to. Every time you do an import, you import to that folder, because when I get all done with this, the import, I'll have these 3 folders. I'll go and I'll rename them to add that little notation that I do for every folder. And all I do is click rename and add that little additional. And then I'm going to move that to, guess where I'm going to move this one? 2024-01-26. I'm going to go down to 2024 photos, Q1, and drop it in there. And all my work is done. All of the organizational stuff I have to do is done just by importing it with those names on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Linda, you still have a question, so shoot.
No, I don't. It's, I was just jumping ahead.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, I got it now. Thank
Okay.
you.
So the 2 keys are the 2 pieces of work that you have to do after you import, if you do it like this, is you have to go to 0 imports, then look at the 3 folders that dropped in there for you. That's where your imports went. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to look at Finder. You don't have to look at Windows Explorer. You just stick the card in there and say, use this and drop them in 0 imports. And then rename them and move them. Rename them and put them in the folder where they belong. Each of these is going to be in 2024 Q1, right? Because they're all in January, February, March of 2024. So I would just move all 3 right into Q1. Now I am not, well, let's see now, there's nothing else that I have to do here. I could hit import and it would import those. I don't want to do that. I've already got stuff in there. It will, I want to show you, I think I still have something in the library. Very quickly show you that. So if I was to do all this exactly as I said and set this up like this, you can save this setup. I mean, you can come in every time and change the things so that they look like this. And in fact, if you use this every time, this is the setup you'll see when you come in. So the next time you do an import, you'll come in and it will already have 0 imports selected. It'll probably have the card already identified. So you really don't have to do too much at all. You'll click on the card that has the photos you're importing. You're going to click copy. You're going to come over to this far panel. It's already going to have this stuff all selected. Build smart previews. Don't import suspected. Rename the files into subfolders by date. And it'll have 0 imports selected. You won't have to do anything except click import. Okay, so once you do this, you're done. You just, next time you come in, put your card in, hit import, and it'll put all those in there for you. Now you just go back to library, put the little identifying brief description on each of those folders that you brought in, and move them down to where they belong, 2024 Q1. And I'll show you that in just a half second. And so I'm not going to hit import, but I'm going to go back to, okay. So if you look at 0 imports right now, there are, this doesn't look exactly the way it did in import because I didn't import that stuff. I had already imported some stuff here. But you can see what I've got here. The same thing. 0 imports has 4 different dates in it. So whatever you're importing, if you have 10 different dates, you'll have 10 subfolders for each of the dates. If you only have 1 date, it'll be 1 folder with all of your pictures in there that you just imported. And then all you're going to do is come in here and say, all right, if you don't know what's in there, click on it. What is that? That's Sam looking over the top of the screen. Okay, that's what he, every morning when I get up, he's standing there waiting for me. So this would be Sam. So what do I have to do after I import it? It's all in 0 imports. I right click on it and say rename. Okay. Now I don't just start typing because I'd erase the date. Lightroom has already taken care of the date for me. I already know where it is. So all I have to do is go to the end and type Sam in the morning. Okay. All right. I save that. That's my folder. That's what I do to all my folders. You know, all I do is add that description. Now it's just in the wrong place, right? Because I took those pictures January 22nd, 2024. Well, where should I put pictures like that? Well, it's in 2024 and it should be in Q1, right? That's where it should be. So I take this folder, select it and drag it down and put it in 2021, Q1. Why does it not want me to do that? That's interesting. Isn't that great? You go through this whole thing and they shoot you out of the cannon, but they forgot to put the net out there. So, yeah. Do I know why? No, I don't know if I do know why. I think it's because, there we go. All right, let me try that now, watch. And I'll tell you why that happened, I think. Still. Okay. Ooh, wow. Oh, I do know why that's messing around. Oh, there's Sam. I'm sorry. Okay. Sam ended up down here. There we go. All right. That was a lot of flashiness, but I'm not even going to try to explain that. I know what happened. Occasionally I get so much stuff going on that I have to kind of stop Lightroom and start it again, and it'll get back in sync with me. But that happens. So you can see that I moved that. I moved that one folder out of 0 imports and dropped it down there in Q1, and now I'm done with imports. If I do the next
Ted.
import, yep.
Ted, I got a question. Why are the triangles on some of those grayed out? What does that mean?
It means there's nothing in them, meaning no photos in there.
Well,
So
no, the ones even if you look at the ones under 0 imports, those folders, see the triangle? Yeah, why is
Yeah.
that?
that has nothing in it. That's an empty folder right now. This one has stuff in it. I'm getting my eyes done Wednesday, by the way. I'll be able to actually see this stuff. It does look like it's grayed out a little. I can't even tell you, Tom. To me, it looks like it's okay, but some of them are empty, and usually if they're empty, you see, you can't. Oh, for God's sakes! Yeah, I definitely need to. I need to reboot Lightroom, and I'm not going to do that at the moment. Okay, the last thing, just yeah. The last thing I'm going to say is 0 imports. I keep talking about that. That's what I called it. And you know why I called it 0 imports? Because that puts it at the top of the list alphabetically. And what do I do most? What folder do I use most? My imports, that when I bring stuff in. So I want it at the top. So I called it 0 imports. If I had called it imports, it would have been at the bottom. If I called it Ted's imports, it would have been at the bottom. So putting the 0 in front makes it alphabetically first in the list. Okay, so that's the only exciting thing about that. It doesn't have any meaning to the system at all. But the fact that I choose that folder to bring my imports in means that it's gonna, when I come into imports, 0 imports, I'm gonna see the 3 folders under it, or whatever number of folders that for the number of dates that I have in that shoot. And that's how many folders I'll have. I do my quick rename to add the brief description and drop them down in the correct locations down here. That's a lot.
Ted, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yep.
This is going back a bit, and I'm sorry I was distracted when you finished up on the right-hand 2 column. Didn't get whether you clicked done or import or
That's
both.
good question, Des. You click import when you're going to import some photos. and then it will do that. If you click done, you're saying, well, I made some changes to maybe to that column over there, but I don't really want to input anything. So you hit done and you go back to the library. So yes, if you're going to import photos, you have to hit import, not done. Because when you hit import, it's going to go out of the import screen and show you the library again, and you can see the pictures coming into zero imports or wherever you put them.
Thank you.
Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot today. If you got this far and you can kind of practice with that and play with that a little bit and then come back with questions next time, you've really done the heavy lifting now. This was the tough part. It gets better from here. The searches get very cool. The collections get pretty cool as well. And they're not, they're not rocket science. They're not as complex as folders and folder structures and everything else. So if you got that, you're really in good shape right now. How many people, by a show of hands, how many people feel that was perfectly clear? How many, and then we're going to go from there and see, it's perfectly unclear, or I'm somewhere in the middle. So perfectly clear, everybody. Okay, I got one. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And two. Okay. Pretty clear
enough.
is so. Okay, so pretty clear. So you get the idea. Anybody that feels kind of lost? Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll take that. So really, you've got a homework assignment. You really should import some of your photos, even if you just take a picture of the rug. I don't care what the picture is. Take a bunch of pictures and bring them in, import them. When you're done and you've got 20 pictures of your rug, delete them. Delete all the pictures, delete all the folders. Doesn't matter. But practice so that you say, oh, wow, yeah, that's not so bad. Does everybody have time? If everybody has time, I'll do one last thing that might help you to, and if you have to go, you have to go. That's fine. But I just want to show you, I'm going to go back to the import window. You'll notice that it has all the stuff that I put in here, right? Including that I wanted to go to zero imports, right? All of those settings that I put in there will be there the next time, unless you come in and you change something. So if you want to save all this stuff, down at the very bottom in the middle of the screen, you see I've got zero import settings. That's because I created a setting, a preset for this, and I named it. So I would come in here and once you do that, if you go in there once and you set it all up the way you want it, come in here and say, save current settings as new preset, and then call it whatever you want. I call it zero import, so I know that it's my settings for the import screen. You can call it anything you want, Tessa's imports. But if you change it, you can always come back in here and just click on, because it'll become a setting for you. You just click, you just select that one. So I come in here and where am I? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Zero imports. I click that, and now it will change it back to the settings that I put in there for, that I saved. And if you do it wrong and you say, oh, no, man, I shouldn't have done that, then you just come back in here and you say, edit that one. So, I think, let's see, rename preset. You could rename it, you could delete it. So if it was wrong, you could just delete that one and change it to the way you should have been. Say I collected, in other words, I selected that's the folder I wanted to go into, and oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. Just delete that setting, delete that preset, come in here and delete. Oh no. Yes, so you just delete zero imports and then save the new one once you changed it back. Sometimes I learn some new things too as I go along. So anyway, that's a nice way to have those settings for future use. So you can come in and change them if you wanted to for a particular import that was different than what you were used to doing. So then you could go back and just grab 0 presets or whatever you wanted to do. Okay. All right. So do practice. I'm sorry I keep you so long, but anytime you have to, you have to go. If I'm rambling on like I usually do, like my wife says, just feel free. You got to go. You got to go. But that was a
Nope.
pretty good. That was a long session.
It's been very helpful, Ted.
Good.
Thank
you. Good. But like I said, if you got this down, you're in good shape. Next time we'll do some fun stuff. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank
This was fun.
you. This was great.
All right.
Thank
Good.
you.
Good. Okay. See you next time. By the way, the next one is
It's going to be March.
Yeah, I'll send you the thing, but I think it's March 4th.
Okay.
Yes, March 4th. So I'll send out the link again. But we'll continue to use the same link because this is my own Zoom account. So I've created when you come in next time, if you go into Zoom, you should see the CCVF M2M session or something in there as a drop down. So you can just select that. You don't even have to look for the link. Just go into Zoom, say join, and then click in that top box, and it'll bring it up, and it'll say CCVF, and just click on that, and you'll be in the meeting. Give that a whirl next time. Something else to think about, huh? Okay. All right. Everybody have a good day, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Very
Ted.
much.
Thanks, Ted.
Bye-bye. All
Thanks,
right.
Ted.
Hey.
Very good, Ted.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ted, are you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ted, you there?
I'm with
Will
you.
you record the next? Will you record the
Yes.
next one?
Yep. I will stop this one now.